Hi, good morning and welcome to the Celebration Space. My name is Kaylee Phelps and today we are talking about holding healthy boundaries during the holiday season. And I have two guest hosts. I was only planning on one, but we just turned the heat on in our house, so I think we're getting love, but also we're kind of like heating pads. So this is Tyler Buckingham, my partner, who I've talked about in a lot of videos, and Dolly, of course, y'all know Dolly. But and I've sent you guys to Buckingham Fitness in a lot of different videos that I've talked about, and I hope that you've gone there, liked his page. He produces a ton of really great health, fitness, and nutrition content, and also mental health content. So I wanted to bring him on here just to chat with us as well. And so if you haven't been to Buckingham Fitness yet, I'm bringing the Buckingham Fitness to you, and Dolly's bringing, the cuteness to this video. So that is a quick little introduction for us, and going into talking about healthy boundaries, healthy holiday boundaries. Tyler and I we were kind of chatting about it this morning, and this is something that can apply to you not only during COVID time. Both of us have experienced this outside of this strange reality that we're living in, but also it can happen if you're going to holiday parties in person and if you are doing something that is more of a Zoom holiday celebration. So we wanted to kind of cover our basis as far as setting healthy boundaries around anything where you might be pressured to do something that you don't really want to do, or something that is going against some of the boundaries that you're setting for yourself. So I think that covers the introduction. Do you have anything else you want to chime in with?
I'm excited to get started. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we're going to start with kind of tip number one, which is communicate with your hosts. I did a whole video on setting gathering expectations and really talked about how the expectations around your gathering, that really falls on the shoulders of the host. So my recommendation is really to go with the person who is most uncomfortable, especially around COVID, really kind of catering to their needs and setting expectations around that, just so that everyone can feel more comfortable, and then being really, really clear about those expectations. If you're receiving invitations that are like, hey, party at my house 6 to 10 p.m., see you there, you might be like, hey, is there going to be food, or are we going to be outside? You might have all of these different questions, and these are questions that you'd have outside of COVID as well, but we've upped the ante with a global health crisis. So that's something that just being really clear and communicating to your host, hey, I had these questions, would you mind please clearing this up for me? If they are not setting those clear expectations for you, really just being like, hey, if I'm not able to get more information, I might not be able to hold my own boundaries. So I really want to be there, but if I can't be there, I just want you to know this is what I would like to see if I'm able to be, participate. So that's where I would start. Is any tips from you on kind of communicating with the host?
Yeah, definitely communicating kind of those expectations, or being able to just reach out and have a conversation about it, because as Kaylee was sharing with me this morning, there were a couple things that she mentioned that I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. And if I'm hosting, that's a really important thing to do, and that's what Celebration Space does a great job of, is thinking of everyone and the whole space. So no, I think nailed it on the head. So,
all right, perfect. And next, of course, is setting expectations and boundaries for yourself. And you can't hold your own boundaries and expectations if you're not clear about them. So maybe it's something where you're saying, hey, I don't want to talk about any politics at this family gathering, or I'm trying to give up drinking, or I am trying to give up sweets, or I'm trying to give up all of these different things, and that temptation or that outside pressure is going to be at that party, or hey, I'm not going to talk about maybe maybe you lost your job during this season and someone's like, hey, what are you doing now? And you're like, I'm not going to talk about my job. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole with my family, especially on a big Zoom call as a public forum. So just kind of knowing what your expectations are and then communicating them, especially if you're going to be in person with your household. So the CDC is recommending that we don't travel for the holidays, and if we do travel, that we only have 2 households. The fewer the households, the better, just because it's like the fewer amount of germs. So, you know, our household and one other household, it's going to be a little different than having 6 or 7 different households all together. So just really communicating with your partner, with your children, with anyone who lives with you, with your roommate, just saying, hey, I am going to go to this thing, or maybe you're going to go to this thing. But when you go to that holiday party, even as a roommate, just being like, hey, I expect you to wear your mask and stay 6 feet from people. Being really clear about that, just so that you can, no one can say, hey, I had no idea I was supposed to do that, and feel caught off guard. So that is kind of tip number 2. And then tip number 3, keeping your time short and being transparent. So really just going into it when you're talking to the host or when you're talking to your family, going into it and saying, especially with COVID, the shorter amount of time that you're around people, the shorter amount of transmission time there is. But even if it's not COVID times, we're not going to go darkest timeline this whole time, the shortest amount of time that you can be there, maybe you're trying to give up drinking, and let's use the 6 to 10 p.m. example. Maybe you want to go more closer around dinner before people are really drinking a ton later in the evening. Or if you are, you know, I know Tyler was vegan for a long time, and so maybe he wants to go to the party earlier for a shorter amount of time because he knows they're ordering pizza at 8:30, and he wants to get there when there's still the fruit plate and the veggie platter is still available and it's not totally cleared out. So just setting expectations around the amount of time that you want to be there, and again, being really transparent with your household about that, so that your household isn't like, you know, I know it's especially hard with my family, like I would always want to stay and play with my cousins, so 8 o'clock rolls around and my parents, this is just an example, but my parents are like, hey, it's time to go, and I'm like, no, like let's stay and hang out. So just being really clear with that around everyone in your household and your family when you're going to something, or even if you're zooming into a call, maybe saying like, hey, we have this planned right after, or X, Y, and Z, just so that you're setting those expectations and those healthy boundaries. And then also being transparent, like I said, having your responses ready. So you don't have to, I'm not asking you to lie to keep your boundaries. I'm asking you to be transparent, and the people who love you will honor you and what you need. So if you're saying, hey, I'm not going to have that glass of wine because I'm really trying to give up drinking during the holiday season, and they're like, oh, well, come on, you're no fun. Well, you know, I made a promise to myself, and I'm going to be really intentional in keeping it. And if someone's going to push you on that, really just saying, using I statements rather than saying, you know, you always push me to do this thing, or you always bring up politics, or you always do this thing, and creating some conflict. Just keeping the I statements and knowing like, hey, I said my piece, and then being able to walk away and say, I appreciate you trying to grab me a glass of wine. I just kind of said what I'm trying to do, so I'm just gonna let you go. I'll see you later this evening, or we'll chat later. Hope you have a great rest of your night. Just knowing that you can walk away, you can say no, and you can keep things civil without, while still honoring yourself. And if someone's gonna push you, it's a good conversation to leave anyway. What are your thoughts?
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And especially during the holiday season, being able to hold true to those boundaries and just, you know, hey, I'd really rather not talk about this, or I would really like to just change the subject, or like you're saying, you know, hey, I'll see you later tonight. Like, we can always leave the situation, and hopefully there's a fruit platter there for anybody out there to go spend some time with.
Or sometimes you bring the fruit platter, and that's when the fruit platter is out, that's when you have to dip. But then the last thing that I wanted to just say is that the hardest part of all of this is your follow through. So you're going to tell your family, hey, we're leaving at 8 p.m., but when your kids start saying, no, I want to stay outside and play with my cousins, it's going to be really confirming those boundaries. It's going to be when someone walks up to you with a glass of wine that you would normally drink at every other holiday season, saying, hey, no, I'm really not going to do it. It's when you run out of your vegan food, or your vegetarian food, or your keto friendly, or your whatever plant-based, any of these different things. when you see that cheese plate come out, or you see the roast beast, come out, and you're out of your normal food, and you're like, oh, do I want to just go for it? Just like,
Right.
live a little. But really holding on to your boundaries and following through is going to make you feel a lot better about yourself, and it's also going to show others that when you were transparent about that from talking with the host, from chatting with other people, that you stick to your guns and that you trust yourself and other people can trust you with what you do. So Lisa just chimed in. I'm going to come a little closer. I'm not wearing my glasses. Walking away is acceptable, as is no thank you. I like that you said, I promised myself. So I think that's a powerful thing to say. If you're going to ask someone to break a promise to themselves and they actually do it, it also just exemplifies that they're not only not going to keep a promise to themselves, but they might not keep a promise to you. So keeping promises to ourselves, trusting ourselves, and trusting each other is incredibly important. So thank you for chiming in, Lisa. And so that's all of my tips. I know that we've kind of chimed in and out with Tyler around health and nutrition, which is a really big deal during the holiday season, especially around alcohol and appetizers and desserts and foods. And also, as we're as all of us, I keep joking that people will say it's the COVID-15, and I'm like, let's just call it what it is, the COVID-19. And if you've gained weight during this season, if you are normally gain weight during the holiday season, they say if you gain like an average person gains, I think it was 3 pounds during the holiday season, and you never lose that weight, you're gaining, 3 pounds each holiday season. Over 4 years, you gain 12 pounds. So that's something that I want to kind of pass the torch to Tyler and have him talk about healthy boundaries around nutrition. And then also, even if you aren't seeing family, even if you aren't traveling, and maybe you are feeling like, oh, I want to eat my grandma's casserole, or I want to eat my mom's pie, or I want to treat myself to all of these different things that make me feel food is sentimental and can bring a lot of things to us. So about how to really navigate that, not only when we are seeing family in normal times, but also when we might also feel a little bit more of that void during the COVID times.
Yeah, very, very good. Very good points. Yeah, and like Kaylee was saying, if you were to gain 3 pounds the holiday season and every year you keep putting that on, it compounds over time. One of the things that I always try to share with my clients, and just being like, hey, the holiday season can also be a really good time for us to understand kind of those food boundaries. And this whole discussion is about setting those boundaries, but sometimes those boundaries can be what we don't want. You go to the parties and, this holiday season, you're not going to do the alcohol, or you're not going to do the pie, or you're not going to do this. And that's because a previous holiday, you probably went pretty hard on the sweets and the treats. And, so these boundaries can really help us in knowing what we do want. And so then after the holiday season, you're able to kind of change that mindset, change the lifestyle that you want to live, and being able to set up those boundaries and making the promise, hey, I promised myself that I wasn't going to do this. And then keeping that promise allows you to keep the next one, and then allows you to keep the next one. And so really it all ties together. It's a really, really good point.
And I have a question around incentive, mostly because I am much more of a incentive-based, I guess I follow rules based on incentive much more than by punishment. And so what are your thoughts on if I'm the person that, goes ham on pie, which I am that person, what would you say is it like incentive that if I go through a holiday party evening and I don't have the pie, how could I incorporate different alternatives? Or do you have any concrete tips of hey, don't eat the pie, don't drink the wine, but maybe find an alternative that's going to kind of give you that sentimental feeling, or maybe give you a similar vibe?
That's a really great question. I love that. And my big thing is, hey, if you're craving something, it's okay to have some of it. You don't have to have all of it. One really great analogy out there is, if you got a flat tire, you wouldn't go around and then slash the other 3 tires. you would just fix the flat tire. And so as it, incorporates with eating, hey, you can have a slice of pie. You don't have to go and then have the next half or whole of a pie. And so you're allowed to indulge, and it's about setting those relationships and those boundaries with food, and understanding that, some foods you should see more of, some you should see less of, and just being able to allow yourself to have that sentimental feeling. Some food is that soul food. Yeah, if you want, my mom baked us pies, and oh my gosh, yeah, of course we're gonna eat those. And so it's a matter of understanding, like, hey, I can have this, and I can have that healthy relationship with the food so that it doesn't have control over me. Because that's also a promise, like, hey, I'm only gonna have one piece. And that's a promise that you make with yourself. So, no, that's a really great question.
Yeah. And I would say for those people who are kind of stuck at home, just because I know for me, if I'm stuck at home by myself and I have 3 pies available, the likelihood that I'm going to have a pie and a half by myself in one day is maybe a thing. But maybe if I just buy 1 pie and I promise myself, okay, I'll cut it into 6 or something, or 4s or whatever. And then it's like, okay, I just have 1 today, but guess what? That means I have another one tomorrow.
Bam.
And then that means I get another one the next day.
Yep.
So maybe that's just how my brain works, and I have to incentivize myself that way. But yeah.
No, I love that, and I would always say, hey, I would rather you have dark chocolate every single day of the week in small little bite-sized amounts, or in a serving size, so that way on the weekends you don't just go ham on all of it, and just because you've been restricting so much during the week that now on the weekend you have your cheat day or cheat meals or whatever. Rather, you can just live each day and have the foods that you love, while still maintaining healthy relationships with it, and achieving the, I guess, body goals that you're looking for.
Yeah. I find that if I overeat one time, like the other day, I just overate for the first time in a long time. I mean, it's the holidays, it's bound to happen. But I overate for the first time in a long time, and I found that I got so much hungrier the next day, earlier in the day, because I think that I had stretched my stomach out, or I had just my stomach had gotten used to being so full. And so I think just being really aware of your body too and how you feel. I think going back to your point at the beginning of knowing what you don't want, it's kind of like a job, or taking on internships, where it's okay, you do internships to know what you don't want so that you can pursue what you do. And thinking back on previous holiday seasons where it's last year I broke out so bad. Oh my gosh, it's because I had eggnog every single night. Or last year I gained 6-7 pounds, but it's because I drank a bottle of wine by myself every night. These are examples. But it's just one of those things that looking back on the ghosts of holiday food past.
Ooh,
and looking at maybe how you felt about yourself, or looking for stretchy pants. We all have our stretchy pants, but maybe you're looking for your stretchy pants more than you were in the past. And also just checking in with yourself and your body to know maybe, hey, I always do this thing, and I know I always do this thing. And that's kind of with the boundaries too. If you're walking into a situation where you're I know I'm going to be pressed on politics, or I know I'm going to be pressed on alcohol, or I know I'm going to be pressed on this type of food, or I know I'm going to be pressed on X, Y, or Z, but also knowing your own tendencies with yourself, and just knowing, hey, I didn't like what that did to me. I'm going to stop doing that thing this year and see how it goes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Sorry, I was trying to bring it all for full
it
circle.
Did.
Okay.
It's all connected.
We're all.
No, I love it.
It's all connected.
I love it. And do you have anything this holiday that you're looking to kind of implement for boundaries?
This holiday season, I'm trying to think. I think I tend to, if I get really sentimental around watching a lot of movies or staying up later, just because I feel the dark, when it gets dark out early, I kind of lose. So I think my dedication is going to be more to my sleep and trying to cut back on screen time, just because I do find that if you think about it, and I just read an article about how the competition for like Hallmark and like all of these different stations, like they're coming out with a ton of holiday content just because we've all been home so much and we're all consuming so much media. So I think my dedication to myself is trying to do other activities and hobbies less around electronics and more around relaxing activities. Not to plug, but also to plug, I created a self-care assessment that you can find at thecelebratiorspace.com/free. So if you're looking to find out maybe some things that you could work on this holiday season, that could maybe trigger a couple thoughts. And so I think that for me is finding alternatives from screens for hobbies and spending my time, and then also trying to be more dedicated to my sleep and listening to my body.
Love those goals.
How about you?
I want to enjoy it more. I want to be more present. A lot of the stuff that we've talked about today and that you've structured so well has been around kind of those relationships and that mindset and having that healthier boundary. And I know for myself, one of the things that I struggle with is being present in the moment. And so for myself, the promise that I want to keep to myself is finding those times when I can really, put the electronics away, not have as much screen time, and just be more present with the people I'm with, or if I'm by myself, being more present with myself and checking in with myself. I love that.
Yeah. I think self-awareness, we get so caught up in the holiday season and thinking about other people in a lot of ways, which is like a very good thing, thinking about what am I going to get so-and-so for holiday gifts, or what am I going to donate, or how am I going to do all of these other things, or how am I going to spend time with this person, and really remembering to get in touch with yourself and how you're feeling and maybe how the stress is affecting you. And maybe the other day I took a self-care day and it was one of the best things. I think everyone should take a self-care day between Thanksgiving and December and just calm, because there is so much fun in this time, but there's also a lot of stress and anxiety. So that is, I think, going to be my last tip before we sign off. Do you have any final thoughts?
The self-assessment free thing that Kaylee has created is truly, truly beneficial. She breaks it down, 30 questions that you can ask yourself in 10 different categories. It is unbelievable. Please check it out. And that's me as someone who has gone through it, but also knowing how much care and guidance that she wants to help this community. So the Celebration Space, check it out, please.
Yay. And thanks for hanging out with us this morning. I know that it was a little bit different of a format. Hopefully you found it kind of fun, a little bit more interactive rather than me just talking to you. And if you have anything that you're working on this holiday season, please drop it below. Let us know if you would like to have any spin-off conversations, if you want Tyler to come back and talk about something more specific with health, fitness, setting boundaries around the holiday season, or you have a specific scenario or challenge that you're struggling with. Also popping into the Buckingham Fitness community. I'll try to link it below in the comments so that you can jump over there if that's something that you're specifically working on really intentionally and you want some more. He has fantastic free resources and also a ton of free content as well. And also if you're in the Atlanta area, you can definitely work out with him. He has an app. I'm going on and on, but yeah, there's all the things that we really want to, get to know y'all better. And so please don't hesitate to drop in below, drop over there, and take care of yourself this holiday season. So until next time, enjoy celebrating today.
Bye.
Bye.